The galaxy was wide, filled with millions of stars and countless civilizations. For most species, life was about exploration, trade, or power. But for the Valari, life was about something far deeper: bonding. Every Valari carried within them a silent longing, a deep pull toward a single soul somewhere in the universe. They believed that every life was incomplete until that bond was found. It was not just marriage, not just love. It was destiny, written in the threads of existence itself. A Valari who found their bond would feel whole for the first time, and a Valari who never found it would always feel empty, even if they lived for centuries. Shira was young by Valari standards, a quiet and thoughtful explorer with silver eyes and soft, pale skin that shimmered faintly in the light. She had grown up listening to the old songs about soul bonds, but she had never truly believed she would find hers. The universe was too big, and she was only one small traveler among billions. When she was chosen to join an observation mission to Earth, she felt only curiosity, not hope. Humans were strange, fragile creatures, short-lived, emotional, chaotic. The Valari respected their creativity, but saw them as clumsy and primitive. Zira thought she would spend her time gathering data, learning their languages, and perhaps walking unnoticed among them. But fate had other plans. It happened on an ordinary afternoon in a quiet Earth city. Zira was blending in, using her human disguise. Walking through a crowded street filled with shops and laughter, she was nervous but also fascinated. Humans smiled so easily at strangers. They laughed loudly in public. They carried bags full of food and trinkets, and every face seemed alive with energy. Then she saw him. He was not remarkable at first glance. A man in his early 30s, tall but not towering, with tired brown eyes and messy black hair. His clothes were simple: work pants, a shirt with oil stains, heavy boots. He looked like someone who had worked too hard for too long. He carried a small box of tools and seemed lost in thought as he crossed the street. But when he reached out to help a woman who dropped her groceries, Zira found herself staring. His movement was gentle, careful, as though the fragile fruit in her bag mattered more than anything else in the world. He smiled awkwardly, scratched the back of his neck, and said something quiet. The woman laughed and thanked him before walking away. Shira should have kept walking. She should have treated him like every other human, interesting but unimportant. Yet her feet would not move. Something in her chest tightened, and before she realized it, she had stepped closer. The man noticed her. His expression was unsure but polite. Hi, do you need help?" She froze. Her training told her to respond with calm words, to act like a normal human. Instead, her mind spun as she reached out almost without thinking. Her hand touched his, and the universe stopped. Shira gasped as if lightning had struck her heart. Her vision blurred and every sound in the city faded away. All she could feel was him. His presence roared through her soul like a storm, filling every empty space she had carried since birth. It was undeniable, overwhelming, and absolute. This was it. The bond. Her knees trembled and her breath caught in her throat. She could not let go of his hand. Tears pricked her eyes as the truth crashed into her. She had found her life bond, her only one here on this strange world. And it was not another Valari. It was a human. He frowned in confusion, pulling his hand back slightly. Are you okay? You look pale." She stared at him, silver eyes wide, heart racing. Her voice shook as she whispered words he could not understand. "Impossible. Mine?" For the human named Daniel, it was just a handshake with a stranger. For Zira, it was the most important moment of her entire life. The Valari girl stood in the middle of a crowded human street, her world collapsing and rebuilding all at once. She had not just met a man. She had met her soul, and nothing would ever be the same again. Shira's heart thundered in her chest. The crowd around her kept moving, but she stood frozen, staring at the human whose hand she had touched. Her body trembled with the weight of what had just happened. Valari song spoke of this moment. A sudden, unstoppable pull, the instant when two souls collided. It was never gentle. It was fire. It was flood. It was a storm inside the heart. She had always believed she would recognize her life bond immediately, but she never imagined it would feel like this. The bond did not whisper. It screamed. Every cell in her body told her the truth. She could not deny it. This human, this tired-looking stranger with oil stains on his shirt, was the one her soul had been waiting for across stars and centuries. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. How could she explain the immensity of this moment? How could she tell him that in 1 second her entire life had changed? The man frowned with concern. "Hey, are you okay? You look like you're gonna faint." His voice was rough but kind, the kind of voice that carried the weight of loneliness. Shira forced herself to breathe, but her chest ached. She whispered, barely audible, It cannot be," Daniel blinked. "Sorry, did you say something?" Her hands shook as she backed away slightly. She wanted to run, to hide, to escape from the crushing truth. Yet the bond pulled her forward again, refusing to let her leave. The closer she stood to him, the stronger her body felt. The farther she tried to step back, the weaker she became. Already she knew she could not stay away from him, not without pain. The Valari believed that destiny was written into the soul, and once the bond appeared, there was no choice. It was not something you could break, not something you could ignore. It tied lives together whether they wanted it or not. Her throat tightened. But he is not Valari. He does not even know what this means. Daniel, confused and uncomfortable, tried to offer help. "Do you want to sit down? I'm call someone for you. You look like you need help." Zira shook her head quickly. "No, no one can help. This is beyond." Her voice cracked. She could not tell him the full truth, not yet. How could she? He was human, and humans did not believe in destiny written in stars. To him, she was only a stranger acting strangely. To her, he was the axis of her universe. Her chest burned with frustration and fear. Valari bonds were supposed to be a blessing, a miracle, but this felt like a curse. She had not chosen this man, yet her soul screamed that he was hers. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away quickly, hiding them, but Daniel noticed the trembling of her shoulders. He hesitated, unsure if he should step closer. Something inside him, something he did not understand, made him reach out again. His hand almost touched her shoulder. She flinched as though the touch would consume her again. Her voice came out sharp and broken. "Do not, please." Daniel froze, pulling his hand back. He felt awkward, even a little hurt. But mostly he was worried. "All right. I won't. Are you sure you're okay?" Zira closed her eyes. The bond inside her pulsed like a heartbeat that was not her own. She whispered to herself, voice shaking. "The universe is cruel." Daniel tilted his head. "What was that?" She forced a weak smile, though it did not reach her eyes. "Nothing. I need to go." Without waiting for his answer, she turned and walked quickly down the street, heart racing. Every step away from him was agony, as though invisible threads dragged at her soul. Her legs felt heavy, her breathing shallow, but she kept going until the human was out of sight. That night, Zira sat alone in her small room, hands pressed to her chest. Her silver eyes stared at the ceiling as tears slid down her face. She whispered to the empty air, "Why him? Why now? Why a human?" Valari elders always said that bonds were rare and sacred. To find one was to find the other half of yourself. But what did it mean when your other half belonged to a species that did not even know bonds existed? A species that might never accept it? She curled into herself, trembling. The truth was simple and heavy. She could not survive without him. And yet he had no idea who she truly was or what had just happened. Shira had crossed light years to study humans. She had never expected to need one. And for the first time in her life, she was afraid of destiny. The next day, Daniel could not stop thinking about the strange girl he had met. He worked as an engineer, fixing machines in a small workshop on the edge of town. Usually his mind stayed busy with tools, wires, and broken motors. But today his hands moved slowly. His thoughts kept returning to her silver eyes, the way she had looked at him with shock and pain. He had met many people in his life, but no one had ever stared at him like that, as if he was the center of their world. He didn't even know her name, yet he felt a strange pull, an odd curiosity that refused to leave him alone. When the shop closed, he walked home through quiet streets. And there she was. She stood at the end of the alley, half hidden in the shadows, watching him. Her posture was tense, her hands clasped tightly together as if she had been waiting. Daniel stopped. His heart skipped. "It's you," he said softly. She nodded, her silver eyes glowing faintly under the streetlight. "Yes," he frowned, trying to find words. "Are you following me?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. Finally, she whispered, "I had to see you again." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, unsure whether to feel nervous or flattered. "Listen, yesterday you scared me. You looked like you were about to collapse. If something's wrong, maybe I can help. Her hand shook. She stepped closer. You cannot help, but you must understand. They walked to a nearby park, quiet and nearly empty at this hour. Daniel sat on a bench and she stood in front of him, breathing heavily as though fighting against her own fear. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. I am not what I seem. I am not human. Daniel blinked. For a moment, he thought she was joking, but her serious expression told him otherwise. What are you saying? He asked carefully. I am Valari, she said. My people are from beyond your stars. We have lived hidden among you, studying, learning. That is why I came here. But yesterday, something happened I never expected. Something impossible. Daniel stared at her. The logical part of his mind rejected her words. Aliens, life from another world. It sounded insane. But another part of him, the part that remembered the way her eyes had burned into his soul, whispered that she was telling the truth. He leaned forward slowly. What happened? Her chest rose and fell quickly. She wrapped her arms around herself like a shield. My people believe in bonds. One Valari, one soul, destined to match only one other in the universe. When we find them, the bond is instant, eternal. We cannot live without it. It is more than love, it is survival. Yesterday, when I touched you, she pressed a trembling hand to her heart. The bond awoke. You are my life mate, Daniel. The silence that followed felt heavy. Daniel could only stare at her. Words caught in his throat. Finally, he let out a shaky laugh, though it sounded more like disbelief. Wait. You're saying me? I'm your, what, soulmate? For life? Yes, her voice cracked with emotion. The only one I will ever have. Daniel shook his head, overwhelmed. That's crazy. I'm just a guy. I fix machines. I live alone. I'm nobody special. Her silver eyes filled with tears. You are everything to me. Even if you walk away, even if you reject me, my soul will remain tied to yours. Do you understand? I cannot break this. I cannot survive without you. The pain in her voice hit him harder than her words. She wasn't lying. He could feel the truth in the trembling of her hands, in the desperation in her eyes. He swallowed hard. And if I don't accept this? Her tears fell silently. Then I will fade. Slowly, painfully. My life will end because the bond will tear me apart. That is the price of destiny. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't dreamed of destiny or aliens or eternal bonds. He had only wanted a quiet life, to fix machines, to pass his days in peace. Now, suddenly, this girl, this being, was telling him that her entire existence depended on him. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair, staring at the night sky. For a long moment he said nothing. Finally, in a voice heavy with confusion, he asked, So what happens now? Sierra stepped closer, her eyes shimmering. She whispered, Now, you choose if I live or if I die. Days passed, but the world between Zira and Daniel remained uneasy. The bond that tied their souls pulsed constantly, invisible yet undeniable. Every time Daniel looked at Zira, he felt a strange warmth and tension at the same time, a feeling he could not name. He tried to ignore it, to pretend it did not exist, but it refused to let him rest. Shira, on the other hand, followed him wherever he went. Not out of desire, but out of need. The bond demanded proximity. Even a few steps away from him made her chest ache, as though someone had twisted her heart. Her eyes often lingered on him from across rooms, trembling with emotions she could not voice. She wanted to warn him, to explain, but how could she? How could she make a human understand that their lives were now entwined forever, whether he wanted it or not? Daniel noticed her presence everywhere. At first it was subtle, a figure in the distance watching him, but soon it became impossible to ignore. She was there when he walked through streets, there when he worked in his shop, sometimes just standing silently in the corner of his small apartment. Sierra, why are you following me? He asked one evening, his voice tense. He had been working all day on a broken engine, and the frustration inside him boiled over. She flinched, her silver eyes wide and glistening. I cannot stay away. Please, you must understand. The bond. Her voice shook. It will destroy me if I do not remain near you. Daniel slammed his tools onto the table. Sparks flew from the metal as his hands clenched into fists. I didn't ask for this, he shouted. I didn't ask to have some alien ghost attached to me. I have a life, Sierra. I have a routine, I have work. Her face fell, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. I never asked either. But this is my life now, and my life is yours whether you accept it or not. Daniel's anger softened slightly, replaced by guilt. He ran a hand over his face. I don't know how to live like this. I can't just wake up and suddenly accept that I'm tied to someone for life. Zira's voice became desperate. You must, please. If you do not, I will die inside, slowly, painfully. I cannot survive without you. He turned away, breathing heavily. Every word she spoke cut deeper than any blade. He loved peace, order, solitude. And suddenly he was being told his existence determined someone else's life. The unfairness of it burned him. For hours they sat in silence. He worked on engines, she sat nearby, her hands folded, her eyes tracking every small movement he made. The bond pulsed, sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, but it never ceased. It whispered to them both, pulling and tugging at their hearts in ways neither fully understood. Days stretched into nights, and Daniel's frustration grew. He wanted to push her away, to find a way to escape the intensity of the bond, but every time he turned from her, a dull ache crawled into his chest. He tried to tell himself it was just sympathy or curiosity, but deep down he knew it was more than that. The bond had claimed him whether he liked it or not. One rainy evening, as lightning split the sky, he finally snapped. I can't do this. I can't live like this. He slammed his fist on the table again, startling Zira. She stood, trembling but unyielding. Then do not, she said softly. Walk away, leave me. But know this, my soul will remain bound to you and I will suffer for it. I will endure the pain because I cannot change destiny. Her words pierced him like ice. For the first time, Daniel realized the depth of what had happened. He could not run from her. He could not run from the bond. The universe had chosen, and the choice had been made for him whether he wanted it or not. He sank into a chair, exhausted, heart pounding. Outside, the rain fell in torrents, mirroring the storm inside him. He did not know if he could accept this. He did not know if he could survive the weight of another life depending on him. Shira watched him, her own chest heavy with sorrow. She wanted to reach out to comfort him, but even her touch now would cause more confusion than solace. For the first time she felt helpless, not because of danger, but because of love. True, unyielding, desperate love that could not be given freely. And in that silent room, Human and Valari sat together, bound by invisible threads of destiny. Hearts aching, souls struggling, each wishing the other could understand without pain, each fearing the depth of what it meant to belong to someone forever. The struggle had only just begun. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside Daniel's heart. Rain pounded against the windows of his small apartment as he paced, trying to make sense of everything. Zira had been quiet for hours, standing near the corner of the room, her silver eyes lowered. But Daniel could feel it. The bond between them pulsing like a living thing. Every heartbeat of hers echoed inside him, a reminder that her life, in ways he still did not fully understand, depended on him. He rubbed his temples, frustration and fear twisting together. I don't know what to do, he muttered. His words were swallowed by the sound of thunder. He wanted to push her away. He wanted to run. But every time he looked at her, every time he felt that strange tug deep in his chest, he froze. Then it happened. Shira stumbled. At first it was subtle, a slight wobble, a faint gasp, but within seconds she collapsed to the floor. Daniel rushed to her side, panic flaring. Zira, hey, wake up, talk to me! Her body was trembling uncontrollably. She clutched her chest, her breath shallow, her silver eyes wide with fear and pain. Daniel, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I cannot. Without you. He dropped to his knees beside her, heart hammering. His hands shook as he tried to lift her, tried to make her sit upright. No, you're not dying. You can't, don't say that. She pressed weakly against him, her forehead resting on his shoulder. I told you. My life is yours. If you leave. If you reject me, Her voice cracked and tears ran down her cheeks. I will fade. Daniel slowly, painfully. Daniel's chest tightened as terror gripped him. This was no longer abstract. This was real. Her life, her very being depended on him. He had spent days struggling with the bond, trying to push it away to find space for his own thoughts. But now there was no ignoring it. Every second he hesitated could cost her everything. He cupped her face gently, ignoring the trembling of his own hands. Listen to me. You're not fading. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I'll stay. I'll figure this out. I won't let you die. Zira blinked, her breaths ragged, her body weak. She wanted to believe him, but her fear ran deeper than words. You mean it? Yes, I mean it. I don't fully understand this bond, this destiny thing. But I know this. If it's your life tied to mine, then I won't let you go. Not now. Not ever. The words hung between them, heavy and powerful. Slowly, the trembling in her body eased. The pallor of her skin returned to a softer glow. The bond pulsed not painfully now, but gently, as if sensing his acceptance. Zira leaned against him, her body still weak, her arms wrapping around his waist in a trembling embrace. Daniel held her, unsure whether to cry or just stay silent. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. I won't let you be alone. I won't leave you. For the first time since the bond had awakened, Zira felt a glimmer of relief. It was fragile, delicate, but it was real. She rested her forehead against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. Somehow in that chaotic, storm-filled night, she felt the faintest spark of hope. Thank you, she whispered, voice trembling. I've never felt safe like this. Daniel hugged her tighter, closing his eyes against the rain and the fear. You are safe. I'll make sure of that. We'll figure this out together. Whatever it takes, I'm not letting you go. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the small apartment, something shifted. The fear, the tension, the struggle, all of it began to give way to something stronger. A choice had been made. Daniel had chosen her not because of destiny, not because of obligation, but because he wanted to. He had chosen her because she mattered. Shira's silver eyes glistened as she clung to him. The bond, once terrifying and unyielding, now pulsed like a quiet heartbeat between them, binding them not in fear, but in something far more profound. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, the human who had frightened her soul at first glance could also be the one to save it. And Daniel, holding her close, felt the weight of that responsibility and the warmth of an unexpected, overwhelming connection. The struggle was not over, but for now, in this moment, they were together and unbroken. The morning after the storm, the air in Daniel's apartment was quiet, almost peaceful. Sunlight streamed through the windows, falling on scattered tools and the faint traces of last night's rain on the floor. Zira sat on the edge of the couch, her silver eyes soft but still wary. She had survived the night, but the memory of almost fading haunted her. Every shiver of her body reminded her how fragile she truly was. Daniel watched her from across the room. For hours he had sat silently, thinking, replaying her words, and trying to make sense of the bond. He had struggled with anger, confusion, and fear, but last night had changed something inside him. He realized that this bond was not a curse, not a burden. It was a responsibility, yes, but also a chance, an unexpected, unbelievable chance to connect with someone entirely, deeply, eternally. He took a deep breath and walked over to her. Zira's gaze flicked to him and she stiffened slightly. Daniel, she whispered, her voice cautious. He knelt in front of her, holding her hands gently in his. Zira, he said slowly, I've been running in circles trying to understand all of this, trying to pretend I had a choice. But I realize now that I do have a choice. I can choose. To be with you, to protect you, to not run from this bond even if I don't fully understand it. Her eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. She wanted to speak, to ask if he truly meant it, but the weight of the words made her hesitate. I'm scared, Daniel admitted, voice low. I've never lived like this before. I've never had someone who depends on me in such a deep way. But, he squeezed her hands, I don't want to let you go. I don't want to leave you. Not after last night. Not ever. For the first time since the bond had awakened, Zira felt the storm inside her settle just a little. The fear, the ache, the constant pull, it still existed, but now there was something else, hope. Real hope. She let herself breathe, let herself believe that maybe finally she would not be alone. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his chest. You mean that? Her voice trembled, soft as a whisper. I do, he said firmly. I choose you, Zira, I choose this. Whatever this is, because I know now that you matter more to me than anything else in the world. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from sadness this time, but from relief, from overwhelming emotion. She had feared the universe had made a cruel mistake. that she would be tied to a life she could not survive. But here in this small, sunlit room, Daniel's words were a lifeline. Slowly, almost tentatively, she wrapped her arms around him. He held her back, letting her rest against him. For a long moment, they just stayed like that, breathing together, letting the weight of the bond settle between them in a new, gentler way. The bond pulsed again, but this time it felt warm, comforting, not frightening, not painful. Daniel could feel it now, too. A gentle thrum connecting them, a silent acknowledgement that they were no longer alone. "You don't have to understand everything," Zira whispered. "You only need to stay with me. That is enough." Daniel nodded, pressing his forehead to hers. "I'll stay. I'll stay for you. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I won't leave. Whatever happens, whatever this bond is, I accept it. I accept you." Her heart surged, a mixture of love, relief, and joy. She had feared so much, fear of rejection, fear of losing him, fear of the bond itself. But now, that fear began to dissolve. She smiled through tears, feeling more complete than she had ever imagined possible. For the first time, she let herself hope that this strange, fragile human could be her anchor. And for the first time, Daniel let himself feel the bond fully, not as a burden, but as a gift, a connection that transcended worlds, a connection that demanded courage, love, and trust. Together they sat quietly, hands intertwined, souls bound, hearts beating in rhythm. The sunlight filled the room, casting a golden glow on their faces. The storm had passed, outside and within. In that simple, perfect moment, they both understood the truth. The universe had chosen them. Yes, but it was their choice that now made the bond alive. And by choosing each other, they had found not just survival, but something far more powerful: hope, trust, and love that could withstand anything. And Daniel whispered softly, almost to himself, Maybe humanity was made to surprise even the universe." Zira smiled, resting her head against him. And maybe it did. Weeks passed since Daniel had accepted the bond. Life slowly began to feel normal, though the bond still pulsed between them, constant and unyielding. But now it was not a source of fear or struggle. It was a source of connection, a quiet rhythm that reminded them both that they were no longer alone in the universe. Shira followed him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Every step he took felt like home. She watched him repair machines, walk through crowded streets, and smile at small human things. And she felt joy she had never thought possible. The bond had chosen him, yes, but Daniel had chosen back, and that choice had changed everything. Daniel, for his part, was learning to live with the constant presence of another soul in his life. At first it had been overwhelming, the pull of her emotions, the constant hum of connection, but now he understood. He could feel when she was happy, tired, or worried, and with that understanding came care, and with care came love. He had never imagined he could feel this deeply about anyone, alien or not, but he did. Zira was no longer just a stranger. She was his companion, his anchor, his life. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, a reminder that the universe was far bigger than Earth, Zira and Daniel stood together on a small hill overlooking the lights below. The wind blew gently, carrying scents of rain and earth, and the stars shone like scattered diamonds above. Shira turned to him, her silver eyes shining with quiet emotion. "Do you feel it too?" she asked softly. Daniel took her hands in his, holding them tightly. "I do," he said. "It's not just a bond anymore. It's us. I feel you, and I want to feel you like this, every day, every moment. Not because I have to, but because I choose to." Her lips curved into a small smile, tears glimmering in the corners of her eyes. "I never thought I would find someone who could understand. Not just the bond, but me. My heart, my life." She stopped, choking on her words. Daniel tilted her face gently, brushing a hand across her cheek. "I do understand. And I don't need to fully understand everything. I only need to be here with you, always." Her breath caught, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. She leaned into him, her forehead resting against his, and whispered, "Then we are complete. Together, truly." Daniel nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest he had never known. The bond hummed gently, not like chains, but like music. A quiet song that wrapped around them, connecting hearts, souls, and destinies. For the first time, The fear that had haunted both of them melted away. They stood there for hours, watching the moons rise higher in the sky, talking in soft whispers about everything and nothing, sharing small jokes, stories of childhood, and dreams they had never dared voice before. Every word, every glance, every touch strengthened the invisible thread between them. It was no longer just a bond, it was life itself. Shira realized something she had not understood before. The bond had not just found her, it had transformed her. It had taught her to trust, to hope, and to open her heart fully even to a human. And Daniel realized something equally extraordinary.